Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Crystal Antoinette, and on this channel we talk about all things faith, obedience, healing, and becoming the woman that God has called you to be. All right, so we are in week 2. Last week, God was talking to us about beholding Him in our waiting season. There's always something that He's doing for us in the way of provision while we're waiting on the promise, while we're waiting on the big answered prayer, while we're waiting on what He has confirmed. God wants us to look again at our situations, whether you're in the valley, whether you are in the wilderness, and even if you just aren't quite sure how to title your season, He wants us to know He is actively present and actively working in our circumstance. They're little breadcrumbs of His favor, of His grace, of His provision. And provision looks different, right? Provision isn't always financial. Sometimes it's spiritual. Sometimes it's emotional. So provision of His peace, provision of His love. Maybe He's sending friends or a mentor in the season. While you're waiting for the job, there's little bits of favor. You get your favorite parking spot, or somebody gifts you a free lunch, or whatever that thing may be. God makes it known that He is with us while we wait. We just have to recalibrate our perspective so that we can see from heaven's lens and not from the lens of defeat that Satan wants us to agree with. And so last week was just about beholding Him. Behold, if we remember, behold means an interjection into whatever is going on, and it literally means to look again. To look again, to gaze upon. And so that is what God is first calling us to do in the month of June, is just to look at our situations again, to gaze at it in a different way so that we can behold Him and what He is doing. Oh, y'all. All right, week 2. So I'm not going to lie. Why are we a day late? We are a day late because I felt Lord, I don't know enough of whatever you're trying to say. So I'm not finna release nothing premature. I have to know enough. I'm responsible to you. And then this morning I got an earful. And this was one of the things that was an ouch for me. So y'all are gonna get it raw right after me. And I definitely was convicted. Your girl is a runner. I'm a track star. All when it comes to some of the things that God calls me to do, because I'm scared, right? Or because I feel like I don't know enough. Just not wanting to do today's episode, or just feeling like I don't have enough experience. Whatever the thing is, a lot of times because I feel the weight of the responsibility in serving the Lord, I always want to run away when He asks me to do more. But anyways, let's get into it, you guys. So this week, yes, we will still be talking about Abraham, but he is last. But if you remember, one of the things that I had noted coming into June was a lot of the places in Abraham's story where I would see, behold, I also kept seeing, here I am. Here I am, here I am. And a lot of us, if you're like me, we've heard that before when it comes to Samuel, right? Oh, I didn't even realize that Abraham and Moses said it. We always hear in children's church and just, sermons on hearing the voice of the Lord, Samuel's the guy, right? But all 3 of them said it. And God wants us to know, this week is about us. This week is about our response. Last week was about God, right? He's trying to get us to see what He's doing in our waiting season. So it's where He's providing in His provision. This week is about our response, but not in the way that you would think. And so we're going to start with Moses. If you go to the story of Moses, this is where he had grown up as a prince of Egypt. So he wasn't really well versed in the information in terms of his heritage as a Hebrew or any of that stuff. He lived a good life in the palace, being groomed, right, as a prince. And in Exodus 2 and 3, that's where we kind of land. he sees an injustice happen to a fellow Hebrew, and he decides to take it into his own hands, and he kills the Egyptian that was harming the Hebrew. And because of that act, because it got out, because Pharaoh found out, he went running into the hills, right? Like technically, not technically, he killed his own kind. And I'm sure that there was a punishment for that. And we find him by a well where he meets some ladies who are trying to water their flock. And because of his kindness towards them, they end up going back to their father, Jethro, to tell him what happens. And this is where this part of the Here I Am picks up. So Exodus 2:21 and 22 is after the girls have gone back to their father, Jethro, and told them about this man that came to help them. He tells them to bring him, right? He wants to meet him. And so he met them. And it says in Exodus 2:21 and 22, then Moses was content to live with the man, and he gave Zipporah, his daughter, to Moses, and she bore him a son, and he called him Gershom, for he said, I have been a stranger in a foreign land. So why is this important? This man is on the run for his life. He don't know nothing about his heritage. Now he's not even in like the country or the situation where he's growing up. So like I can imagine he feels all types of loss. What do I do? Are they going to come after me? Like just all the stuff. And he like finds or gets found by a man and his daughters. He comes into covenant with them, and now he's starting to learn a new way of life, right? He's learning to be a shepherd with Jethro, who is a priest. This man ain't get but so far when that happened, the burning bush happened. So it doesn't say that it was years later. It doesn't say like Abraham, he was 70. It says after that happened, he literally had the burning bush experience. Let me pull that up for you guys. All right, where is it? So after that happened, if you go to Exodus 3:1, now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And now he led the flock to the back of the desert and came to Horeb, the mountain of God, also known as Sinai. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. And Then Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, and why the bush does not burn. So when the Lord saw that he had turned aside to look, God called to him from the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, here I am. I'm just taking these sheep on a walk to eat, to get water. I'm just walking around. I just happen to be passing this mountain that I don't even know is a mountain. Like, I don't even know. And I see a bush. And the behold, to look again, the gaze again was to perceive that while it was on, while there was a flame, it was on fire, it was not being burned. It wasn't being consumed. So we see the look again, gaze again, get another revelation of what's happening here. It doesn't look like what it appears to be. And it was there that God said, Moses, Moses. And his response was, here I am. He didn't have a relationship with God. Like, we have to break this all the way down. As an Egyptian, he was a part of a polytheistic community, which means there were many gods. And the God of the Hebrews wasn't their God. So it wasn't like he grew up learning our God. He grew up learning their gods and how they function and what they had to do to be in relationship with them and all of those things. So he has no context for this God. He has no context. He doesn't know who he is. He has no context. He just found a place of refuge. And God calls to him and he says, here I am. Here I am, no identity. Here I am. Why is that important? Because the very next thing that God does, after he tells him that it's holy, if we go down to verse 11 through 13, he says, what is happening is, after he tells him that the place where he's standing is holy land, he literally gives him an assignment. What? I know you lied. What do you mean you're giving me an assignment? You then turn around and tell me I'm going to go and free these people who have been in bondage for over 300 years. They have been in bondage for over 300 years, and you're telling me that you're sending me, that you have heard the cry of your children, and I'm the answer? What? And Moses says to God, 11 verses 11 through 13, but Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, who he is, remember, he has intimate relationship with this Pharaoh. He knows him, and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Egypt. And God says to him in verse 12, so he said, I will certainly be with you, and this shall be a sign to you that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain. Then Moses said to God, indeed, when I come to the children of Israel and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they say to me, what is his name? What shall I tell them? Verse 14, and God said to Moses, I am who I am, or I am that I am. And he said, thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you. What? And I'm a runner. This is why I be, what? What do you, if you even listen to what Moses is saying, like, he's not even sold yet. He's like, who am I? Like, first of all, who am I? I'm literally I murdered somebody. I am guilty of a sin. I am guilty of a law. I should be in jail. I am technically an Egyptian, although I have Hebrew blood. I don't know you, because he says, listen to his language, the God of your father sent me. I don't even believe in you. You're not even my God. And you want me to do what? You want me to go back to the place where they can put me in jail? You want me to tell people who've been in bondage, who've probably seen me on, their little platforms being carried through the city, who know that I have lived as an Egyptian. You want me to go back and do what with them? To rescue them? And he said yes, and tell him I sent you. I sent you. Their God, I sent you. That's who. God didn't back down not once. Now, did Moses have questions? Yes. But at the end of the day, that was the end of that exchange. Like, after he asked questions, God did the same thing that he did with Abraham. He confirmed, he gave him some information, but then Moses had to go, and he went and he did what God asked him to do. So it's not always that God calls us when we have years of information or years of experience, or when we have a doctor this, or we have an elder that. God calls us when he's ready to call us. And we have to, very real time, come to grips with the reality and the limitations of who we are as humans, and go in the strength of God, go with the faith of God, even if it's tiny, right? Even though Moses didn't know that God, Moses was familiar with God's. We know that they're false. This is not a conversation about that. But there is a reverence. There is a deference, right? There is a dependence that Egyptians have on their gods. And so in that regard, especially as God showed him wonders, was not difficult to translate. He just needed to become intimate with God and learn about who he was as the singular God of the children of Israel. So that is Moses. Now, if we go to Samuel, We are very familiar with this when it comes to Samuel's beginning. So if you remember, Hannah finally had a son. After all those years, she promised God, hey, you let me have a son, I will give him back to you. And sure enough, around 4 or 5 years old, she took him to the temple. She took him to Eli, and he lived with Eli to serve the Lord from then on. Now, it's easy just to like, oh, he's in the temple and all of that. God called Samuel 3 times. Between verse 1 and verse 6, he calls him 3 times. And every time he calls him, Samuel goes running into Eli's room where he's laying down, and he says, here I am. Samuel, Samuel, here I am. Eli's like, yo, I didn't call you. I didn't call you. I didn't call you. He's like, here I am. You did call me. I heard you. You called me. And it wasn't until that last time that Eli recognized that it was God calling him. And he told him, go lay down. If you hear someone call your name again, you say, here I am. Your servant is listening. And so Samuel did that, and the Lord began to speak to him. But before we get to that part, what I want to note is 1 Samuel 3:7 says, now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, nor was the word of the Lord yet revealed to him. So again, we're not talking about the Samuel that we know that crowned 2 kings. We're not talking about the adult that has been fully processed and has come into his prophetic office, right? We're not talking about that. We're talking about Samuel that was starting out, even though he was in the he was living with the priest, which is crazy to me, in a whole nother conversation. He did not know the Lord. He didn't know him, nor was the word revealed to him. He did not know him. He was serving him. He was serving his people, but he didn't know him. So what happens next? God then, you're going to hear a pattern real quick. God then tells him that he has a purpose for him. So let me pull up 1 Samuel 3. He then, like, as soon as he says, speak, Lord, your servant hears, the Lord says in verse 11, then the Lord said to Samuel, behold, look again, gaze. I will do something in Israel which both ears of everyone will hear, who hears it will tingle. In that day I will perform against Eli all that I have spoken concerning his house from beginning to end. For I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knows, because his sons have made themselves vile, and he did not restrain them. And he keeps going, but after that, the Lord begins to use him. It says in verse 19, so Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and let none of his words fall to the ground. And all Israel from Dan to Beersheba knew that Samuel had been established as a prophet of the Lord. Then the Lord appeared again in Shiloh. And so what does this show us? So we have 2 people who were highly called by God, who had no real context on who he was or word, right? Like, at least at Moses's timeline, we didn't have the 10 Commandments yet. So by Samuel we did, but by Moses, he was the one who was the scribe on the mountain, if you will. He was the one who collected all of that information, the laws, and all of that came through him. And so, but either way, and either age, because remember, Samuel was a boy. He was a boy. It literally says in verse 1, now the boy Samuel ministered to the Lord before Eli. We're not talking about a teenager. We're not talking about a 30-year-old. We're not talking about a 50-year-old. So for those of you who have children, or if you're young and you've come by this channel, it doesn't matter how old you are. When God speaks, our response ought to be, here I am. And he knows right where we are. He knows what we know. He knows what we don't know. He knows where we're ignorant. He knows all of it. And yet he still calls us. So even though he was ministering before the Lord, says verse 1, verse 7 tells us he didn't know him. He ain't know him. And he's still calling him. I don't know you, but you're still calling me. You're still calling me. What we're supposed to take from this particular story was that even though it took 3 times before Samuel got information to help him to connect with the right person, his response was the same. So he's just like Abraham in the sense that his zeal, his enthusiasm remained the same. He came running every time. He rose up quick. You called me, you called me, you called me, you called me. He didn't start walking slower. It doesn't say he waited till the next day. It doesn't say he just turned over because the first 2 times that he got called and was denied, that he gave up, that he lost faith, that he lost hope, that he just decided that it was an illusion. No, he kept ask, seek, knock until that little boy kept until, and even got bold with him and said, yes, you did call me. Here I am, for you called me. You called me. I heard my name. I'm not like, he did not allow the report of the enemy, if you will, coming against what he knew was a real experience to deter him from what he believed. You can tell me that I'm wrong all you want. I know what I experienced. I know somebody called my name, and I'm going to keep showing up until I figure out who's trying to get my attention. I'm going to behold what you need me to behold. And so we also have to be like that as well. Sometimes the first knock is not enough. Sometimes the first here I am is not enough. Sometimes you got to say it a couple of times. And sometimes we need assistance because we don't know everything. Sometimes we need assistance because we haven't experienced everything. He needed the man of God to literally say, I'm not calling you, but I know who is, so that he could get connected and receive the instructions that were coming to him. And so sometimes you may not have all the information. Maybe the area that God is stretching you in, you don't have context for in this season. And so it may take you having a dialogue with a trusted source, with a trusted partner like Eli, so that you can get directed in the right direction. He was asking the right questions. He had the right heart posture. He was humble. He was consistent. He was persistent. He just was looking in the wrong direction. And once he got the right information, he was able to connect with God. And so that has to be our posture. We might have to knock. We might have to seek. We might have to say, here I am, God, a couple of times before we get the connection that we need, so we can get the instruction that we need for the purpose that God is calling us to. And then last but not least is Abraham. Why is he coming last and technically he was first? Because God wants us to also know, like, it's not just in the wait that we ought to have a here I am. Even when we receive the promise, even when we receive the answered prayer, our disposition towards God ought to be the exact same. We should not lose the reverence. We should not lose our state of gratitude. We should not lose our perseverance like Samuel. We should not lose our willingness to show up. We should not slack in our service towards God. We should not slack in spending time with him. Our disposition towards God when we receive our Isaac ought to still be, here I am. So at this point, Abraham has Isaac. He is at least of age enough to walk and talk on his own and understand what is going on. And so this part of the story is Genesis 22. You guys know we've been here. We were here last week. And it's verses 1-3. Now it came to pass after these things that God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham. And he said, here I am. Then God said, take now your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains which I shall tell you. So Abraham rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey and took 2 of his young men with him and Isaac his son. And he split the wood for the burnt offering and arose and went to the place which God had told him. So why is this important? Because he already received it. I did my qualifications. I received what God had for me. My son is here. I'm able to enjoy him. My future is secure. This bloodline is going to live. All of the things, right? And I just wanted to change because that one didn't have a behold because it was New King James. I'm a New King James girl. But if you go to King James, you will see that there is a behold. But we have to be very, very careful. And God has been saying this over and over. We have to be careful that once we receive, we do not remove him from the throne of our hearts. We have to be careful that when we receive, we don't show him that all of our love and all of our adoration was a lie. Remember, this was a test of the heart posture. It was a test of the heart. Now that I've taken Ishmael from you, now that you actually have Isaac in your hands, will you still love and obey? Do you love me enough? More than having this son, do you love me enough to sacrifice him if I ask you to? And so we have to make sure, not that we don't just have reverence, that we don't just adore him, that we're not just affectionate, we're not just loving towards God while we're in the wait because we want something from him, but that we have the same reverence and all of that after we receive it. Why? Because our love, our adoration, our obedience wasn't really about the thing. It's about our relationship. It's about the love. So if the difference between them and Abraham is he was in relationship with God at this point. They talked to like God had visited him 7 times at this point. He knew who God was. He was very well aware. He was educated about it. Like, does this make sense? Like, we're not talking about someone who didn't know. He was a friend. He was a friend of God at this point. They walked together. How many of us in the past can say that when we receive that financial breakthrough, when we receive who we thought was supposed to be our husband or our wives, how many of us had the same temperament, the same reverence, the same zeal for God? Or if we would be honest, how many of us dropped out? How many of us stopped going to Bible study? How many of us slacked on our service in church? How many of us stopped fasting? How many of us stopped spending time in prayer? How many of us allowed our worship to die? Like, it's important not just in the wait, but also after, because the reality is that is the fruit of our real relationship. And that matters to God. The fruit of our real relationship, our real adoration, our real love for him matters to him. He is not an emotionalist God. We all through the Bible, you can see that he cares for us. We love because he loved us. And so it is our duty that everything that we do is out of love. Our yes is out of love. And if it is, then it does not change on the back end. But the reality is where we have to check ourselves is when our fruit, when our habits with the Lord, when our time with him begins to change after receiving, then that shows that there was an error in our hearts and in our why we were obedient. And God will check it because he can already see it. That's the reality. And so God is saying for this month, because I'm wrestling, y'all. I be wanting to tell him no all the time. I'm honest. Somebody else might be like, you can't say no. Everything that God calls us to isn't easy. Look at Moses. Like, I'm calling you to deliver an entire people that has been in bondage for over, at the time of release, 400 years. You know how many people? Like, I don't even know how I'm going to feed them. Where are we going to go? I don't have any of this information. We don't even have swords. Like, what are you asking? Sometimes it's difficult. How difficult was it for Samuel to his first word from the Lord was to tell his own leader, Eli, I'm coming for your house. I'm about to judge it. And there's no sacrifice that can ever be given ever in life that is going to absolve you of the sin that your sons did and that you didn't put an end to. That was the first thing that he called this boy to do, to tell. He had to tell Eli the next morning that thus said the Lord. And deal with however Eli was going to take it, because he didn't know. But God is saying, regardless of how hard it is, regardless of what you don't know, regardless of your experience, regardless if you're not really sure of your full identity in me, regardless if you don't know this part of me yet, I'm still requiring a here I am in the season. God said to me when I finished all of this, he said that what we seek is attached to the assignment that he's trying to give us. There are many of us that there are assignments on the table, and it's going to range from small to big. Some of you guys are supposed to be small group leaders. Maybe he's called you to evangelize. Maybe he's called you to mentor. Maybe you're supposed to serve. Maybe he's called you to head up a Bible study, or to join, or to have your own prayer call or prayer line. Whatever the thing is, you know what it is, and we've been hesitant. God has been saying a couple of things to me for the last 30 days, and every time somebody come up to me and say the same thing, I just be like, stop talking to me. I don't want to hear that. And God challenged me this morning. You want provision? You want a level of favor? You want to obtain certain things? It's attached to the assignment that I'm about to put in your hands. But I need your mouth yes. I need the yes that you're telling me because you know that you have to tell it to me. I need that to be a yes in your heart. I don't just need your lip service, Crystal. I need the yes in your heart, that even though you don't feel qualified, come on, let's be real. Even though you don't feel qualified, even though you feel like you don't have enough experience, even though you don't have any titles before your name, that you're still willing to say, okay, God, here I am. That you're still willing for me to interrupt where you are, to behold where I am, and to say, okay, here I am, and to receive your next marching orders. How many of us are going to be willing for God to interrupt life right now and to go to the next place in the next thing that he is calling us to? That's what he wants to know. You need provision, Nehemiah, I can give it to you. But first you have to say yes to building the wall. Will you go to your king who doesn't believe in me and ask and let him know what I put on your heart? Joseph, will you say no to seduction? Even though nobody's around, will you say no? Will you remain resolute in your integrity and in your diligence? When life showed you pain and hurt and betrayal and rejection, and it's easy to fall into the arms of a woman who's showing you how much that she's willing to pursue you, will you remain? Will you remain? Will you go back and into the place where you used to live high and go low, Moses, and tell the same people that you grew up with, God said, let my people go? Will you be willing to face adversity? Will you be willing to face perseverance, even if the people that you're leading out don't have any level of reverence for you, don't have any level of gratitude for the work that you've done, can't even see your sacrifice, but are able to eat from your cup and eat from your labor? Because they walked in because of him. Because if you read the story, God wanted to take them all out. And he was the one that said, wait. What kind of God will that make you if you kill all the people that you took out of this place? Like, come on, God. But they entered in because of him. How many of us are willing to step up to the plate in the season and not back down when there is a giant in front of us, and not back down when the people around us are telling us that we can't do it, that we don't have the right materials, David. We don't have the armor. All we have is the slingshot. When we are being made fun of, when people are side-eyeing us, how many of us are going to be willing in this season to still say, here I am. I have beheld the face of the Lord, and here I am. We have to be willing to go. God does just not arbitrarily give out stuff. He is like a CEO, like he is the greatest investor. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. I spent time knitting you together for my glory. So glory must be given back. How do I get glory? From your story, from you doing what I asked you to do, from being my hands and feet in the earth, from carrying my glory to people who are far from me, from helping them to understand identity and freeing them from the bondage of hell. That is how I get glory. So I'm looking for those who are willing. I have been calling your names. I have been saying, Crystal, 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 all of them, all three men he called multiple times. Crystal, 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 Crystal. And I have to respond. You have to respond and say, Lord, here I am. Here I am. Here I am. And not only be willing to hear what he says, but to move out. So this is the month to receive the orders and to give him a hearty yes, not just from your mouth, but from your heart. And to just have to say, like I'm going to have to say, Lord, I don't have it all. I really am not even quite sure why you're calling me, but send me, I'll go. And I'll just believe that you're going to be with me. I just believe, like Moses, that when I stand in front of Pharaoh, you're going to tell me what to say. I just believe that, like Joshua, as I come to this river Jordan, that you're going to tell me what to do and you're going to assist me with taking the land. I just believe, like David, while I'm watching all these other people sit down and be lethargic when there's an enemy in the camp, that as I come in the name of the Lord, what's also coming with that name is the authority of the Lord. And you will not let me be put to shame. We have to believe that for ourselves too, so that we can receive, because for some of us, that's what's holding up the promise. It's the assignment. That is what's holding up the promise, is taking hold of the assignment and doing it well, operating well. So that is the word for this week, y'all. Listen, if you got to go wrestle. Remember, we talked about this. God is not afraid of our emotions. He's not afraid of us being afraid. He's not afraid of us saying, like, Lord, I'm scared of the weight. I'm scared of the responsibility. I'm feeling a little timid about persecution, God. I don't really know if I want to deal with that. Like, whatever it is that's in your heart, you have to share it with him so that he can speak back. We learned about that very early in April when we first met Abraham. We have to be willing to be honest with the Lord. He's not going to change his mind. So please, he's not going to change his mind. But what he will do is give us insight and give us comfort as we journey into our yes. So this week, make sure you spend time with the Lord and just honest and earnestly, as he speaks back, say, here I am, and I'm willing to go. Love you guys.